me came my parents, my brother, a lot of luggage, and 20 years worth of memories of people and places, ways of living and interacting. And when I landed into this new country, which was so very different from the one I left, I took all of those memories and carefully wrapped them up and put them away. Because I had to learn to be a new person, a different person. I had to learn to speak differently, and I don't mean just the language. I had to learn to interpret the world differently. And those memories were in the way. So for the time, they were put somewhere safe. And there they stayed for a couple of decades, quietly. But after a while, they clamoured to be heard and shared, and made me do it. And in writing the story, as Ken already explained in some very good detail, I also talk about the time, the country, the society, which was very different. Tito's Yugoslavia, communism light, as Kat put it, not behind the Iron Curtain, but of that ethos. One-party system, one education system, state-owned education system. Free, health free, total employment, many other things. Did it work? Were the people happy? Of course, you know the answer. Some things worked really well and some didn't. That's the world I grew up in. Thinking about it now, it gives me heart and optimism to think that a society can be ordered in a different way. I'm not saying we should go back to the past. I'm saying there are different ways, and perhaps better ways, of organising ourselves than we do at the moment. And it's heartening for me, and I hope it's heartening to you when you read it. The other reason, of course, is for my family, for my boys and girls, and for their boys and girls to learn something about their heritage. And for you, my friends and colleagues and readers, to take you beyond the familiar, to let you see something different, to intrigue you, to give you a good yarn so you can stay up at night and read it all night until you finish it. And on that note, I'll read you, just to explain the context. This is about preparing for my first communion, okay? In a communist country, remember communist light, so we were allowed to go to church, but nothing to do with the school or the state. It was a separate thing. I did it in my own time. And I was once told to choose. I was offered the school captaincy, but I was told I couldn't continue going to the religious instruction. And so I threw myself to the lions, of course, and said, I'm going to the religious instruction. I'll continue. That was my private rebellion. Someone told me I shouldn't do something. Of course, I went and did it. Anyway, here we are. During our last religious instruction class, before next morning's confession, there was a growing sense of unease. No matter how you wrapped it up or minimized the effect, it did not sit well with our sense of ourselves as individuals, as private, cherished, free young people. We were anxiously asking many questions and given stock answers. But what if you don't know exactly to describe how exactly to describe your sin? You are not sure how it fits with the 10 Commandments. You only need to describe what you did or thought. The priest will do the rest. He knows all the commandments. But in how much detail do you have to describe? Enough for a father to understand exactly what you did. And who will be the confessor tomorrow, Father? This from me. What do you think? He beams his saintly smile at me. Having put all that effort into the preparation, I feel I should have some reward. I decide not to be his reward tomorrow, and that he was not so saintly after all, deriving pleasure from hearing our little secrets trampling on our privacy. If he's flawed, then the whole coming event, everything we have learnt, the whole package is false. My articles of faith soften and melt like a row of candles. I will not be going into the sordid detail of my wicked existence. It will be enough to identify a general category of sin, large enough and awful enough to cover all my transgressions. Hopefully, I will not be asked to explain. The following day, in a serious high-domed church, I contemplate several wooden confessionals made from carved wood decorated with a cross above the middle compartment where the priest is. A lighted nameplate and a queue nearby indicate that the confessional is in use. I avoid Father Joseph and choose an anonymous priest to hear the sins of an 8-year-old. I stifle my unease while kneeling in the confessional, waiting for the sinner on the other side to be absolved. Muffled sounds of the priest talking indicate the confession is in the last stages. The penance is being given. The little door behind the grill on my side opens. You can commence, child. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned, delivered in a shaky voice, anticipating his disappointment when he hears my confession. The rest of the introductory prayer follows automatically, spills from my memory despite the fright. You did that well, he whispers encouragingly. You can now confess your sins. I trot out the ones of less significance. My laziness, not always doing the chores given by elders, using God's name in vain. He encourages. I take a plunge. And adultery. There is a silence. It lasts forever. A vision of hell opens up in front of me. I will probably go there at once. Finally, a response. Could you say that again, child? He whispers. I repeat more boldly this time, I committed adultery. The priest leans his forehead against the grill. This is highly unusual, and now I'm really frightened. His eyes probe mine across 20 centimetres of air through thatched plywood, examining the monster. How old are you, child? 8. I'm in tears by now, but it is not over yet. He asks me to explain to him what I mean by adultery. I then have to reveal the full extent of my disgusting little crimes. Called Nevin a donkey, told a friend to get stuffed, read something rude in a book. To my surprise, the priest is relieved, almost pleased. He cuts short the rest of the confession, gives me Our Fathers and Hail Marys, 10 of each, and it's over. I'm cleansed and back in the fold, for now. Okay, I'm not 8-year-old in this one. I'm more like in year 12, so probably about to turn 18, because we started school at 6 in Yugoslavia, as in most of Europe. So this is about my friends and a kind of general atmosphere. When Milka visited, she greeted my family with zdrava, a form of greeting used in the past on the gremlins in here. Doesn't like zdrava. A form of greeting used in the past only between peers, but in the new order becoming great leveller and the means of humiliation for those who disliked the change. Milka would say, "Zdravo," in the determined fashion of someone who wanted to disseminate faith. I would cringe. My grandmother, mother and aunt would respond quite graciously, but later commented on how rude it was. Not blaming Milka exactly, but seeing her greeting as a symptom of the whole change in the social order and its effect on daily interactions. The discussion would then turn to the question of fairness and justice, which was meant to be the cornerstone of the new state, but they felt was worse than ever. I disliked such conversations. On one hand, I was praised for writing prize-winning essays about the great heroism of Tito's partisans. On the other, challenged at home about dubious truths handed down at school. The three women who were bringing me up, spurred on by my silence, continued. How fair is it that they live in such luxury while others struggle to make ends meet? That house, my grandmother recalls, belonged to a wealthy family before the war. It was then taken over by someone connected with the Croatian Quisling government, and then Milka's family. It's just the changing of the guard. They all live off our backs. She concludes in her melancholy matter-of-fact manner. Yes, I say, but Milka's family fought in the war and suffered terrible losses. Went hungry, cold and sick for 4 years, trudging through mountains and valleys, fighting, getting wounded. Milka's grandmother lost 5 sons and a husband. They can have their villa and cars. Pause. They are doing a good job indoctrinating you at school. You no doubt think that Tito and partisans are the greatest heroes. The truth, the real truth, is that they committed atrocities like everyone else. Just remember, your own uncle disappeared, who knows where, and others, many others. I survey mental images of partisans trudging through the snow, carrying stretchers with wounded, crossing swollen rivers, cold, hungry, wet, but noble, fighting for their country, taking care of the wounded. These can't be the same people who executed my uncle, a minor clerk in the German-installed Croatian government, father of 2 young children, my Omama's son. Someone is not telling the truth. Finally, a few thanks. First of all, I want to thank Ken, who is not just the manager of this bookshop. He is a poet, an art critic, and a prominent member of the writing fraternity. And I want to thank Kath, who is also a writer, a broadcaster, a poet, who actually launched my Melbourne launch and did a brilliant job. I thanked her there, and I thank you again. I want to thank my friends and family, many members of the family, many friends here and in Victoria. And I want to single out Neven and Mariana particularly, because they gave me very important feedback early in the piece. Neven, my favourite brother, I have to say my older brother, is a character in the book. You'll meet him in the book. He is one of the most important people in my life. Therefore, it was very important for me that he supported the book. Of course, I left some stories out, but there is always another book to write. Finally, this book would never have seen the light of day without the constant, patient and wholehearted support of John, who has read it about 100 times and still likes it. So I hope you like it too.